Yo guys, Vision SGen here, back with more Marvel Rivals content ahead of the upcoming Season 2.5 update set to launch on May 30th, 2025. And in this video, I will break down an overview of all of the upcoming changes regarding the buffed and nerfed heroes, a new hero being added such as Ultron, and other small features that are going to be included too. So on that note, let's get right into it. So first things first, as an overview of the upcoming update, majority of the heroes in the game right now are set to be altered, some are being nerfed and some are being buffed to try and improve the overall experience of the game right now and create a new meta, because let's be honest, Season 2 so far has been pretty dry and flat, and in my opinion, nowhere near as fun as Season 1, and with the new hero Ultron, who will be a strategist being added, and with the new and removed team abilities, we should hopefully have a new and improved matchmaking experience, with different heroes becoming meta, whilst also existing heroes that are currently meta shouldn't be hindered too much, unless of course you are playing Jeff, of which I don't give a shit about Jeff. I despise the character. I don't even think he should be viable in the first place. And for anyone that's salty or upset about this, I really don't care, because why would you care that Jeff is no longer going to be DPS Jeff? Because he was already so stupidly broken in the game in the first place. It took multiple characters to get him out of his hide and seek mode. It took multiple characters to try and track and trace him using the likes of Scarlet and so on. It was just broken in the first place, and the fact that he's now going to be more of a healer and people are upset about it kind of confuses me as to why people even complain or play this game in the first place. So let's be honest, let's move on from Jeff. He is in the past, and that is a great thing for the most part in this community. And as I mentioned, lots of heroes are being either buffed or nerfed, or some are just staying the same, which have effectively changed the meta and the way this game is currently being played. And with the new hero Ultron being added, a new strategist should really spice up this current meta and the way we are going to enjoy the overall experience of Marvel Rivals in Season 2 and beyond. So hopefully that's a really good thing. And with the new team-ups that I'll go over at the end, the new and removed one, we should hopefully see a benefit on that behalf as well. So starting with the buffs, let's kick this off with the Sorcerer Supreme himself and previously dominant Vanguard Doctor Strange, who in Season 2 has been massively underplayed due to the fact that he was previously offensively nerfed. However, with the new update, his primary attack fall-off damage at range is going to be massively improved from 62.5% to 80%, and they're also removing the damage fall-off of the Maelstrom entirely, which should massively help out with improving his offensive abilities. And as for Magneto, what I'll do with this video is I'll go through all of the heroes really quickly in buffs and nerfs, and if you guys want me to go down on any more detail in a future update, let me know. But for the most part, there's quite a lot to get through, so we're just going to sort of fly through all of the buffs, all of the nerfs, and then all of the other features, and so on. So start with Magneto as the second one. His rings now take 3 seconds to charge instead of 4. This is to allow Magneto's cannon to be a lot more frequently used and be better for sort of alleviating dive pressure, and also just making him slightly better, which I don't know if that's going to be a good thing or not, because he's already really well balanced, but hey, it's going to be added into the game. Hawkeye is going to become a very overpowered duelist in this game. His base damage is increasing from 32 to 34. His blast arrows, which for the most part they're just a mimic, and no one really uses them, but they're being increased from 15 to 16 on the projectile damage, and the spell field damage from 32 to 34 as well. And then the maximum focus is increased from 70 to 75, which massively helps up the speed. But also the charge speeds on aiming has been increased from 100 per second to 108 per second. So for the most part, I think Hawkeye is going to be an insta-ban in competitive for the most part, because that just sounds ridiculous. And also he's getting a new team up, which I'll go over at the end of the video. And now as for Hela, she is going to have a slight buff, which is going to also make her ridiculously overpowered, as she's already one of the best duelists in the game by far in my opinion. Her Night Sword Thorn primary attack has been increased from 8 ammo count to 10, so an overall just a straight buff, a one single buff, but is already going to massively help her out, giving her a 25% sort of increase on her ammo count, which is just kind of crazy, because anyone that's played Hela, you will know that those 1 or 2 extra shots will be vital in you getting so many more kills in the game right now. And considering she's one of the most played duelists in the game right now and one of the best characters overall, I don't really understand this one, but to be honest, like I said, she will probably be a very likely insta-ban as well as Hawkeye. And then as for Squirrel Girl, she has also had a straight buff, increasing the capacity of her burst acorn attack, so her primary from 10 to 12, which is really annoying, because I don't like this character in the sense that the way you play it, or most people play it, you just sit back and just spam attacks and just splash damage all across the map. And to add 2 extra shots to this just means that people can sit further back and just do this for longer with very little risk. And unless you have someone that's directly targeting her, like a Psylock or a dive hero, there's not really much you can do about it. And it just kind of bothers me that they're allowing this character to sort of remain really effective from range. And it just, in my opinion, needs to be tweaked. However, they did decrease the cooldown of the mammal bond from 12 seconds to 10 seconds as well. So that's also another buff to helping her be a bit more sort of counter dive protective for her supports. And then as for Storm, her ultimate damage has now increased from 150 damage per second to now 160. So maybe this is going to allow people to start using her again, because from my own experience, I haven't really seen many people use Storm in this new season. And considering Season 1, she was one of the best, if not top 5 duelists in the entire game, I just haven't really seen her. And maybe that's because a lot of players are now using Human Torch, of course, whereas he's going to get a lot of nerfs, which I'll go over shortly. But maybe people are going to now use Storm again because of the new team ability and, of course, for this buff. And then as for the final buffed hero in this game, who's just had straight buffs and is going to become one of the best and most powerful heroes in the entire game, in my opinion, is Punisher, who has had his slowness in his ultimate ability, the Final Judgment, reduced from 20% to now 10%, which is kind of helpful. And then when not firing, he is going to have his slowness reduced from 40% to now 30% when he's firing, which is really, really helpful. And he's also had an increase in his magazine size from 30 to 40, which is kind of crazy when you add the fact that his actual damage on his primary attack is going to be increasing by 1 from 18 to 19, which means he's going to do 40 extra damage now instead, which is ridiculous just based on one mag. So if you think about it in the grand scheme of things, this is going to massively help him out. But also, he's had a slightly reduced spread on his fire rate as well, so it's actually going to make him a lot more accurate, especially at range. And then, of course, his base health has also increased from 275 to now 300. So as you can see, he's received a lot of buffs, and he's going to be one of the best and main used duelists in the entire game, in my opinion. And then as for the nerfed heroes, there were quite a few, and I think a lot of these were necessary. Some were not, and I'll go over that now. Captain America has being nerfed again. His base health is being reduced to 575. His Living Legend shield ability is now being delayed from 2 seconds to now 4 seconds, which should allow him to stop recycling his kit so effectively and make him a little bit easier to kill, because for the most part in Season 2, he has been one of the most annoying and most effective just overall characters in the entire game. Not just Vanguards, just overall heroes in the entire game, as he is so evasive and really, really hard to track down and kill. And then a controversial one is that Psylock has been nerfed. Her burst damage and survivability have taken a massive hit, decreasing the retrieval damage of the wing shurikens from 14 to 12 per hit, and also decreasing the duration of the psychic stealth ability from 3 seconds to 2 seconds, which is going to massively hinder this character. And I will be surprised if I see people using Psylock anymore because of these. Just the fact that she's no longer going to be evasive, and there's no buff to her health overall, so therefore she's going to be a lot more squishier than usual. And the fact that she can no longer sort of make those deep dive flanks and be sort of invisible and then dip in and out will hinder the effectiveness and the playstyle of this character massively. And I wouldn't be surprised if we just don't see Psylocke being used for pretty much for the remainder of this season, which is a bit of a shame considering it's a really good character to have in the mix. And then Groot has finally had a big nerf, finally, because he's one of the best and most sort of banned heroes in the entire game, decreasing the damage of his Vine Strikes from 70 to 65, and his Ironwood wall cooldown has increased from 8 seconds to 12 seconds, which is a great touch, and I think this should really balance him out for the most part. Human Torch has also had a nerf, reducing the damage of the Fire Cluster from 7 to 6. His charge speed of his Blazing Blast has also increased from 2 seconds to 3 seconds. They've also reduced the shield that he gains from sort of his Flaming Meteor from 75 down to 50, and also increased the cooldowns from 15 to 20 seconds. So effectively, he's going to be able to perform lesser executions throughout the entire game, and also they've kind of hindered his survivability quite a bit, which I'm not really sure it needed that, because for the most part, in Season 1, when he got added sort of midway through, he was really sort of average and underplayed for the most part, whereas in Season 2, he has been the best, or sort of arguably a top 3 duelist in the entire game, and that is pretty much undeniable. And I think what will happen is he'll go down now, he'll get nerfed slightly, underplayed a little bit again, and then what will happen in July when the new sort of movie comes out, they'll make him really popular and really powerful probably again, which is what people have speculated to, and I kind of see where the thought process is. And with these games, that's kind of how these heroes work. Not every hero will stay consistent for the most part. You'll have their ups and downs, and sort of just changes the way that the meta is played, and I'm all for it. I don't mind it as long as there are fun players to play with, and for the most part, Season 2 so far just hasn't been that great, so I think we could do with a bit of a revival and a bit of a change up for the most part, so this is definitely a needed one. And then the final straight up nerfed hero is Iron Man. He has now been removed from the Gamma Overdrive team ability, which was iconic and one of the best things about this, but he now gains the new team up ability with the likes of Ultron, the Stark Protocol team up, which I'll go over at the end of the video, but also he's had his projectile damage of the Repulsor Blast decreased from 50 to 45, and the spell field damage from 60 to 55, and as well as this, the Armor Overdrive max bonus health has been reduced from 100 to now 50, which will massively take a hit on his survivability. So as you can see, he's had quite a lot of nerfs, but we'll go over the team up at the end and see what you guys think on how this character is going to fare in the later part of this season. Now, as for the remaining sort of adjustments that have been made, there are various different heroes that have both been nerfed and buffed, which will start with Emma Frost. Finally, this character has been altered because I think that this character has kind of ruined the experience in my opinion. I think they're just not really a well-balanced hero. They needed to sort of reduce the overall effectiveness of this character. So what they've done is they've increased the range of the telepathic pulse her primary attack from 15.5 meters to now 20 meters, but decreased the shield value from 500 to 400, and also increased the cooldown of her carbon kick ability, as well as reducing the actual damage effect of this kick from 50 to 40, and the wall damage from 100 to 90, which is, I think, a really good adjustment, and we'll see how it fares in this new update. But for the most part, this character did need a nerf quite desperately, and I'm really for it. As well as this, Rocket has now had his repair mode healing amount reduced from 55 to now 50, so taking a slight nerf on his healing, and he's also no longer going to be a part of the ammo overload team up with the Punisher, and instead a part of the newly added Rocket Network team ability with the likes of Penny Parker, which I think should massively help with the likes of the meta and should really be quite an effective change. Namor has had a bit of a nerf to his blessing of the deep ability, the one where he's able to go up into his bubble. The increased cooldown effect has gone from 15 seconds to now 20, so less sustain or evasive potential. Also, he's had a bit of a buff to his ultimate ability, increasing the radius of the actual ultimate itself from the inner circle being increased from 3 meters to now 3.5 3.5, and the outer circle being increased from 8 meters to now 9 meters. So a wider ultimate in general, but also he's had an adjustment done to the monsters themselves. The damage fall off of the monstro spawn damage starting from 20 meters has now reduced by 50% at 40 meters instead of previously 30%. So effectively, the overall damage of the actual monsters themselves are going to deal less damage effectively, if that didn't make sense to you guys. And then as for Thor, he's probably the most controversial hero that has been tweaked. His entire style is pretty much going to change. He's now going to sort of become more of a frontline presence rather than a deep dive backline presence, where his hammer throw ability, the poke, the R1 ability no longer costs Thor Force, but instead generates Thor Force instead now, but it can only be used every 6 seconds instead, and the damage of this has decreased from 70 to now 45, and the return damage has decreased from 30 to now 20, so a slight nerf, but also the shield and bonus health from each of the Thor Force consumed, so a maximum of 3, has also been reduced from 100 to 75, and his maximum bonus health that he gains has been decreased from 200 to now 150. Basically, you'll be able to access his awakened state more often and more frequently, but less sustain and less damage output overall. He basically requires better kit management overall. I have actually got this character Lord, and I really enjoyed Thor for the most part, but they've kind of butchered this character in the last sort of several seasons, and I'm not really a fan of it, and I'm not really sure how this will verse or play out in the new season. So of course we will have to test it, but I'm not confident that he'll be a meta hero anymore. StarLord has had his ultimate ability increased, so he's had a bit of a nerf there, increasing from 3,100 energy to now 3,400, so it'll earn it a lot less, and also it now the damage fall off begins at 75% from 40 meters and beyond instead of previously 60%, so that is also really helpful. But also the maximum target range where he gets the sort of auto lock on has increased from 30 to 40 meters, so he's had a bit of a buff to the ultimate, but also a nerf overall, so that's a good one in my opinion. And then Iron Fist finally had a bit of a tweak and a bit of a sort of overall bit of a buff and a nerf. I don't like the character in general, but in this new season he has been one of the best duelists in the entire game. His Dragon's defense, which is pretty much the most controversial part of the character, has had a lot of sort of nerfs and tweaks, so overall I think this should be really effective. He'll be able to convert a lot less of the damage into health, and also his maximum health that he converts has gone down from 200 to now 175, and also the sort of dashes that he gets and the constant flight that he previously had will no longer be effective if there is no target in range. But also the Dragon's defense cooldown has been decreased from 1.5 seconds to 1 second, so as you can see there's been a lot of nerfs but a slight buff, so hopefully that should tweak and sort of fix the character in general. And then Luna Snow has also had a bit of a both in and out. She has had an increase in the light and dark ice healing amount and the damage output from 20 to now 22 per round. The new effect also added to her, the Absolute Zero, which now grants her 50 bonus health per enemy that she freezes, which is a really effective one. However, the energy cost of her ultimate has gone up quite significantly from 4,500 to now 5,000, and also she has had the Chilling Charisma team up ability removed from the game, which I'll go over at the end of the video. And then finally, as I mentioned at the start of the video, Jeff has had some major tweaks to his playstyle and his overall effectiveness. He now heals and damages with his primary attack, dealing 70 damage per second with his primary, but heals a lot less, so he went from 150 per second to now 130. He also has 3 uses of his Aqua Burst attack instead of 12, and also has a cooldown added to this, which is great in my opinion, as he's no longer going to be an effective DPS sort of strategist. He also has had his increased damage to this, so if it basically rewards you for being more accurate, increasing the damage to now 45, and also knocks the enemies up in the air when they're directly hit. But also the healing bubbles has changed quite significantly, reducing the amount from 6 to now 3, but also no longer provides instant health of 85. It now actually heals for healing over time and heals for up to 120 health, so more healing, but just does it over time instead of an instant health, which is really effective because it basically stops him from putting them down the ground and then going straight back onto the ground. Because also his hide and seek has been nerfed quite significantly, which is the controversial part. The cooldown has been added before Jeff can go back underground, so effectively it's finally screwed him up. So the fact that he can't just pop up, hit you with his burst attack, his Aqua Burst, place a bubble down to gain some instant healing, and then go back underground. He effectively, once he will reach his limit, his capacity on the amount of sort of underground time he's gone under, he will effectively no longer be able to go back under until he sort of charges up his hide and seek meter. Now, in addition to the buffs and nerfs of the existing heroes in the game right now, we are also having new team-ups added and existing ones removed. So the team abilities, which are being temporarily removed, are the Symbiote team ability with Venom, Penny, and Spidey, the Black Widow and Hawkeye team ability, the Chilling Charisma team ability with Jeff and Luna, as well as the Ammo Overload team ability with Rocket and Punisher. Now, in addition to the removed team-ups, to balance the overall experience and change the meta itself, we've had several new team abilities added to the game as well. So starting with the Stark Protocol, which involves Iron Man and Ultron. Iron Man effectively upgrades Ultron's arsenal, providing him with enhanced nanotech, which effectively allows Ultron to fire an unstoppable nano array, which pierces through all enemies in its path, dealing a massive amount of damage whilst also healing allies. So it's of course going to be a situational team ability, but when used right, I can imagine this can be really effective and quite powerful. So we'll see how this plays out in the new season with the new hero. Now, the second second one is the Sharknado, which involves Storm and Jeff. Like with the Human Torch and the Storm team ability, when collectively used together, the two Jeff and Storm ults can be combined now to make a Sharknado, which will be really cool for sort of clip farming players, someone that wants to sort of work with his teammate to clear an entire team, especially on the objective where it's going to be guaranteed more effective. And then as well as this, we've had the newly added Rocket Network, which involves Rocket and Penny, where effectively the BRB device, the respawn beacon for Rocket, is now upgraded and reinforced as it now creates webs and periodically spawns arachno mines and spider drones, which will effectively make it really, really annoying and harder to remove than whereas before it just sort of can be just dove onto by any sort of player, whereas now it's going to have to be destroyed by a ranged player, especially if the BRB device has been placed for a significant amount of time. And whereas Penny has gained an additional armored spider nest as well as the actual spider nest she gains, which will effectively deploy armor packs, which is not exactly powerful by any means. Of course, Rocket's one is going to be slightly better, but when together, if you have Penny deploying constant armor packs around the point and you have Rocket sort of constantly having players be able to be respawned without the beacon itself being destroyed, this can actually be really effective and especially a meta-defining team ability in my opinion. And as well as this, the Chilling Assault team ability has been added to the game, which involves Luna, Snow and Hawkeye, where Hawkeye gains an ice arrow, which either slows enemies if it hits an enemy before reaching its required distance, and if it does reach its distance, then it instead stuns that enemy, of course, which will be more effective. And the longer the arrow flies, the more damage it's going to deal. So it basically benefits and encourages Hawkeye to be more of a sniper and a backline player. And as I mentioned throughout the video, with the buffs he's already gaining and this new team ability, you can imagine how much more powerful this hero is going to be, considering Luna is one of the most used strategists in the entire game anyways already. So as you can imagine, Hawkeye is going to be pretty much broken and an instant ban for the most part. And as well as this, the Symbiote Shenanigans team ability has been added to the game, with Venom no longer sort of partnering with the likes of Penny and Spider-Man. He now shares a team ability with the likes of Jeff, where Jeff can extend tendrils that now heal allies when they're linked to them, and they have to be, of course, nearby. Now, however, if they are nearby and they stay nearby for the maximum duration of this team ability, it will basically provide all linked allies with a large burst of healing, and any excess healing that is not sort of required for that player will then be converted into bonus health. So if you basically have Jeff playing around the point and Venom, of course, you will basically gain a really powerful healing team ability, which I think is really sort of effective and sort of boosts the case that Jeff has now become more of a healing sort of strategist in general. And then, of course, the final one is the Pulse Rifle that has been provided to Black Widow from Punisher, providing Black Widow with a pulse mode, which basically deals piercing damage when using the straight shooter, aka the sniper mode of her scope, and effectively will make her a bit more powerful. I still don't think this is going to make a single bit of difference for her being an effective duelist. I still think they need to drastically change this character or revamp her in order for her to be viable. But who knows, with Punisher receiving so many buffs and probably going to be one of the most used duelists in the game, we might see more Black Widow, and maybe this is a good combination, but who knows, we'll have to see in the new update. In summary, following Friday's update, the game should feel very different with the buffs and nerfs as I've mentioned, as well as, of course, the team-up changes that have been added and sort of removed, and with the new hero Ultron, this should be really refreshing, as I'm super excited to play this and see how it plays out. If you guys have enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe, as it massively helps me out. And if you have any comments or thoughts about Season 2 in general, as a whole so far, or with regards to the new update, please let me know down below in the comments, as I'm interested to hear your thoughts and get back to you. I'm Vision SGN, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.